I see one other car coming in. I see one other car coming in. I saw a car come in. Okay, anytime. Better? Stop laughing. That takes a skill. Good morning. Really? Good morning. Good morning. Much better. We're joyful this morning. Welcome to the Umpqua Unitarian Universalist congregation. I hope you've been enjoying all those beautiful, beautiful colors out there that fall is bringing us. It's just amazing. I'm Glennis Peterson, and I extend a special welcome to those of you who are visiting us for the first time. We invite you to stay after the service for coffee, and I'm told there is some vegetarian tamale pie and conversation so that we can get to know each other a lot better. And to those of you at home, I extend a special welcome, and I'm so glad you're with us. I would like to thank our greeters, Mary and Al Herring. There you are. Thank you, thank you. Our speaker today is Reverend Bonnie Anderson, and I'll tell you a lot more about her if you don't know her a little bit later. Right now, though, Betsy Callahan has a special announcement. It'll be soon. We'll be putting our announcements in, like we used to, in the middle of the order of service, but right until that point, we've got a couple of things we just want to let you know of.
I just wanted to ask if, when you're bringing cans, if you'd put them in the blue bags, not your bags from home, you can bring, once you get here. These are going to get, say, we had a ton of cans that I took in last week, so I really appreciate it. So if you could bring, just, there's some blue bags back there if you need them. Thank you. Thank you, Nancy, for doing that.
Yeah, that's an amazing, amazing fundraiser for us. Anything else that anybody would like to mention? No? I'm sorry about the little ringy-dingy there. Okay, well, to help those among us who suffer from food insecurity, we join with several Roseburg churches in support of the fish pantry. We will now collect your food or money donations for fish. I invite the young at heart to come forward and take a basket to help us in our collection. Right here, right here, right here. Any place is good. Thank you, Annan. Thank you so much for your generosity. It's always good to help those of us who really are lacking. Also want to say how much I appreciate our staff members who help us. Jake back there in the back, Annan over there on my left, and we have Sean Shea and his lovely bride Susie with us today. So, and Genevieve, we don't know what we'd do without them, so and we appreciate them very much. Now, the chalice is our symbol of our shared faith. Joy and grief, health and sickness, light and darkness, peace and anger, life and death, wholeness and brokenness. We each bring all of these here to this sanctuary of unity and diversity for this 1 hour of this one day, and pour them out, commingling the oil of our lives to become the flame of this chalice, the symbol of our shared living faith. Death is nothing to fear. It is only another dimension. Don't die with your music still inside. Choose to see death as simply removing a garment or moving from one room to another. It's merely a transition. Eternity is now, right here. You're an infinite being. Once you get past the fear of death as an end, you merge with the infinite and feel the comfort and relief that this realization brings. Opening to the power of intention, you begin knowing that conception, birth, and death are all natural aspects of the energy field of creation. And now rise as you're able. For hymn number 1011, Return Again. Now those on this side, repeat the same song over. It's coming. Okay, see, you notice that it's around. We sing the first part over and over again. This side, Martha will lead you in the second part, and it'll sound really pretty, I promise.
The other one, Jake. Return again, return again, return to the land of your soul. Return again, return again. Return to the land of your soul. Return to what you are. Return to what you are. Return to who you are. Born and reborn again. Return again. Return again. Return to the land of your soul. Return again, return again, return to the home of your soul. Return to who you are. you are. Return to where you are. Born and reborn again. Return again. Return again. Return to the land of your soul. Return again. Return again. Return to the home of your soul.
And now, Martha has a reading for all of our ages. Come on up.
This is labeled Rekindlement, Long Thoughts on Halloween, and it's by Ray Bradbury. And I was really surprised when I looked this up, how much Halloween stuff he wrote. So here it goes. Come, whisper me a promise. Come sit upon my stone. Come lean the winds of autumn and say me not alone. Come, tell me of tomorrow, when I will come reborn, forgetful of all hallows, and fresh with Christmas morn. Come, say I'll live forever, and skull and bones not mine. Come, prove that graves are shallow, where God but saves old wine, and bottles souls and bins them in vintages gone fine. Come say that tombs are balsa, as light as thistledown, and all God needs is to whistle, and we are swiftly flown. A milkweed ectoplasm that, tossed, fills universe at these words from his mouthing. Stand tall, all time, reverse. Take on the new flesh, and knowing, forget that lengthy dust. Rise up in mad bells pealing, in feverings, fresh lust, to cover stars and shape them, far livelier than fires, to honeycomb and seed win, to all that God admires. Be sun, be daughter flying, where time stops, start it up, at every star hole, crying, thrust life and fill the cup. Cut this for me on gravestone? Speak this into my grave? Yes, future children, hear me. Tell the old man to be brave, while waiting years of fallow, until with young man's cry, say, ghost, good time's your savior. God will not pass you by. He holds you in his reckon, all's kept, reused, all thrift. With new womb bright he'll beckon, from old tomb, birth, life's gift. From dust and death commingled, he takes dark flints to smite, and from your bones, thus smitten, lo, 10 billion years of light.
Thank you so much, Martha. And thank you, Betsy, for supplying that. Well, we've come to the time in our service now when we remember our joys and concerns with the silent or spoken candle lighting to commemorate the milestones in our lives. I invite those of you who wish to light a candle, silent or spoken, to please form a line to my right. And for those with spoken candles, we've got a lot going on today. Please try to be as brief as you can. And for those of you at home, this is a great time to either light a candle or commemorate or feel the sorrow, one of the two, at home as you wait. We know that in our financial contributions to this congregation comes from sacrifice and hard work. We are so grateful for this and commit together to ensure the funds we gather collectively do a greater job and greater good for ourselves and our world than they would have done alone. May there be an offering to sustain and grow the life and mission of this congregation. May we give in love and in hope. Okay, I saw stars on that one. For the gifts we have received, may we be truly grateful. May we be committed to using these gifts to make a difference in the world and to expand our beloved community. And now, sit back and enjoy Sean Shea with You Call Me.
This is a song, it's verbatim the words of Maulana Rumi. To him we shall return. Became a plant. I died as plant and rose to animal. I died as animal and I was man. Why should I fear? When was I less by dying? Why should I fear? When was I less by dying? Yet once more I shall die as man, to soar with angels blessed. But even from angelhood I must pass on. All except God doth perish. All except God doth perish. I must pass on. All except God doth perish. When I have sacrificed my angel soul, I shall become what no mind dare conceive, what no mind dare conceive. Oh, let me not exist, for non-existence proclaims in organ tones, to him we shall return. Oh, let me not exist, for non-existence proclaims in organ tones, to him we shall
For those of you who don't know her, I'd like to introduce you to Reverend Bonnie Anderson. She is an ordained minister who lives in Roseburg, traveling around the West Coast. She is a minister over, the West Coast area. Her mission is to allow Spirit to work through her to bring more peace to the world. She uses personal stories and examples to drop ideas that go right to the heart. Reverend Bonnie is the facilitator of many workshops, including Soul Collage, a method to assist one in discovering your wisdom, thus facilitating change in your world. Normally, we would have Reverend Andy with us too. He'd be here to provide his special brand of music. We miss him, but he is home recovering from a knee replacement, and I hear he's doing very well. Good. And I know you'll all join me in wishing him a speedy recovery.
Thank you, Glynis. And thank you, Sean. That was just so lovely. And the first hymn was just right. It was so in the theme of today. So, good morning, everyone. I'd like to begin with a poem by Lao Tzu. The spirit of life never dies. It is the infinite gateway to mysteries within mysteries. It is the seed of yin, the spark of yang. It is the always elusive, endlessly available. So, can you feel the energy coming from this altar with all of the photos from loved ones? I feel there's so much energy and love on that table. So, and I thank everyone who brought a picture of a loved one. And if you didn't, you can place it in your mind. Just imagine that picture being there of someone that you love. So we're celebrating today the Day of the Dead. I think it's celebrated November 1st and 2nd, so we're a day early, but that's all right. And it's different, from Halloween. Halloween is, spooky, scary, although it's kind of come to be collecting candy, but it can be a dark, a wonderful holiday. But the Day of the Dead is a celebration. It's a celebration of those who have passed on and remembering that they are still here with us. If you haven't seen the movie Coco, it's an animated movie. It's wonderful. And it's all about the Day of the Dead. And it shows you what it is, the celebration. And it's a Mexican holiday where families welcome back the souls of their deceased loved ones for a reunion. They invite them back for a reunion to come once a year to come and party with them and celebrate. And they're honored guests. The souls awaken to return to the living to feast and drink and dance, play music with their loved ones. It's a very joyful holiday. And it very well may have indigenous pre-Hispanic roots. The Aztec goddess of death is part of that celebration. And it's actually a holiday of celebration rather than mourning. It's to celebrate and tell uplifting, funny, wonderful stories about our loved ones, and to remember the joyful things. Families and friends get together to remember the loved ones who have died. Sometimes they tell funny stories about them. And altars are a big part of this, the altars for Day of the Dead. And if you, do we have a picture, Jake? They do these elaborate altars. There's one. And they put a picture of the departed and their favorite foods. And this is pan de muerte, I think it is. The bread, say that?
It's pan dulce, it's sweet bread. But
Yeah, it's especially for the Day of the Dead. and flowers, chrysanthemums are popular, and colors. And so they want to lure the person in, to the soul in, to celebrate with them. So often you find skeletons on the altars, and it might look a little macabre, but it's actually celebrating the transitory nature between life and death. And candles and the pictures of the loved ones, and the skulls. Often, if you see you can see the skulls and the masks where there's like a smile on the skull, and it's to laugh at death itself, because there really is no death. Even though we miss those that leave this planet, we miss them because they're not here to hug and touch. But I believe that there is no death. The Aztecs and other Nahua people had a cyclical view of the universe. And death, they saw death as just a part of life. Like, I loved the reading that where Wayne Dyer said it's like going from one room to another, or like removing one garment and having another garment there. It can be as simple as that. Death is a part of life. And Mexicans believe that on this day, the Day of the Dead, the veil between the worlds is thin, so that we can pass back and forth. And you can, I'm sure many of you have had conversations with friends or family who have departed. I know my dad and I talked probably more after he died than we did when he was alive. And you can resolve conflicts, you can do forgiveness, you can have that dialogue that continues. And this ritual is full of life-affirming joy. It's full of honoring those and their lives and the joy. And it shows respect for the loved ones. We're actually honoring these. And the pets. I loved that people brought pictures of pets, because our fur babies are so important to us too. And there's many of those that we're grieving. So I believe that there is no death. There's only changing of forms. And we can really communicate with our loved ones still. They live in our hearts. Lao Tzu said, though you lose the body, you do not die. And Buddhist teaching views life and death as a continuum, believing that consciousness, or the spirit, continues after death and may be reborn. There's many different philosophies, and different religions have different ideas of what happens to you after death. I'm watching this show on, I don't even know what channel it's on, about, it's a comedy about a woman. It's called The Good Place, where she goes to heaven. You either go to heaven and you have everything you want, or you go to hell and you're tortured forever, kind of like is taught in some religions. And she gets sent to the wrong place because she was bad, but she gets sent to heaven. So she's trying to convince them that she should stay. So there's many different ideas and stories about afterlife. I believe that heaven is here now to celebrate, and that there is no punishment after we die. But I think it's a wonderful thing to honor those that have gone before. So when they make the altars, they sometimes do it in the graveyard. They set up the altars in the graveyard with the candles, and they even bring pillows and blankets so they can hang out, and so that when the departed come back, they can rest. And it's a real joyful celebration. I really encourage you to watch the movie Coco. Maybe we could show it one night here and have people enjoy it. And then the next slide is, our dead are never dead to us until we have forgotten them. They live in our hearts, and the pets also. They live in our hearts always. There's a wonderful song, and I can't remember who it's by, that says, remember me. Just remember me. And I think that, when I make my transition to that other life, I would like my love, the greatest honor my loved ones could do would be to honor me and to tell the funny stories. I mean, I can already hear my grandkids telling funny stories of silly things that I did that they laughed at, you know? So we can honor those that went before in that way. And as I get older, I begin to see so much the transition in life. Like I see a young child, and I remember when I was a young child. I never thought I'd get old, you know, but yet that child is going to get old, hopefully, and will live a long life and get old and get wrinkles and gray hair. But yet the child is still alive also. So I think as we age, we sort of look at the whole picture more, and it's fascinating and rich for growth and exploration. So what I would like to do is allow you to tell, let's just start out with one story, because I know that there's a lot of stories here on this table. So if we could, in a moment, we'll line up here like you do for the candles, and maybe Glynis could help with it. Where did Glynis go? Oh, with a microphone, and tell a joyful story, or a humorous story, or a lovely story about someone that has passed, whether you have a picture on the altar or not. So let's honor those who have passed by sharing the joy of their life. And I will begin, you can go ahead, I will begin with Ben's wife, Melisa, who passed 9 years ago now. And she was the quintessential mother. She loved being a mother. She and Ben were only, were only together 5 years, yet they had 2 children in those 5, got married and had 2 children in those 5 years. And her milk was free flowing. She nursed them and didn't have any problem with that. And she'd play with them and was joyful and throw them around. And she just was such a wonderful mother. They would put the boys in a wagon in Livermore, California, and take them downtown to the farmer's market and things. And I can still see the 2 little cutie pies, who are now much too large to fit in a wagon, being pulled downtown in the little wagon to do that. So that's how I honor Melisa, by telling that story. So please come forth if you would like to tell a story about your loved one. And I know that JC has one to tell.
I had a hard time finding a picture of Jim because he's the one who took the pictures. So he wasn't in the pictures. But I found this one and I thought it was just perfect. I have found over time that Jim is an example of the very best a man can be. And I see people nodding. And the story I thought this morning to tell you has to do with something going on now. When we thought for a month that I was pregnant with a 3rd child, I learned that I could not have had an abortion. My heart wouldn't let me. So I went to Jim and told him, and he was just sitting in his chair by the fireplace. I said, I want us both to know I can't ever have an abortion. And he looked up and said, well, I can only provide for 2 children through college. So, within the week, he had had a vasectomy. I asked this story just to go out in the world now, because that shows that 2 people make up a marriage. And he was a loving, sweet man, and one of the first men, because we were in the first part of the beginning of the fellowship. So I'm glad I found that picture, and I brought this because I found it the other day. This is his brain. It's a tiny little notebook with tiny writing, and it has every number of anybody he might want to be in contact with.
Thank you so much, Stacy. Want me to hold it and you can hold them both up?
Yeah, you could hold that one. Hi, I'm Lillian, and this is my mother as a child. And my mother grew up in an orphanage. She didn't have a father, and her mother, in order to support her back in the early 1900s, got a job at an orphanage under the agreement that she would not be any different with my mother than with any of the other children. So my mother grew up an orphan. And when my grandmother died, my mother left Kansas City because she didn't feel there was anything there for her, and she wanted to be a movie star. And a couple of you have heard this story. She took the train to Los Angeles. She'd heard about a certain drugstore where you could get discovered. And she got a job at Santa Monica and Fairfax. But the drugstore was actually Schwab's, which is on Sunset Boulevard. Anyway, she married my father, who drove an ice truck, lied, who was a drunk, and had 3 children. This is my mother in her midlife. My mother was about courage. She was about courage to make change when you needed to do so. She was about courage to accept what was given, but not to feel you were stuck with it. So in the middle of the night, we left my drunken father, she and I and my 2 siblings, and we ran away. And during her life, she was committed to keeping all 3 of us together. After my older brother, she lost a child, and then she had me. And after me, she had my younger sister, and she lost my younger sister at the age of 9. And then she lost my brother to AIDS. And many of you know I went back to Los Angeles because I was not going to have her grow old alone, having lost 3 children. But my mother lived to be 90. She grew older than old, and she never gave up. She never had regrets that tainted her life. She always lived it courageously. And the year my brother died, she and I became a part of the Names Project. And we made the first quilt, which changed my life and hers. And all I can say is that she continued to be a major factor in anything that she did because of her courage, which she passed on to her remaining children. Thank you.
I will. I'll do last.
We're getting ready for the time when the veil is very thin. So I invite my grandfather, can I have this picture? My grandfather who brought naphtha up from the ground in Matanzas, Cuba, and that's my grandfather Hamilton, his wife Catherine, and my Aunt Maxine and 4 workmen. What? Don't know. Very early, before the 40s. Yeah. And there's another picture down there.
This one?
Yes. And Ken's father took this picture. This is a picture of myself with my mother, Catherine, my brother, Thor, and mother was a school teacher, and she also was a supervisor of 300 women in a little tiny aircraft factory before that. And my brother Thor became the librarian at the Music Center, head librarian in New York, and he died of AIDS. And my father, Denzel, he did a lot of things. He managed a huge cold storage warehouse, and later on he became search titles for the Los Angeles freeway for Los Angeles. And my little brother, Denzel, who owned grocery stores and lived a wild life.
I had not planned to say anything to you, but I will. When I was in the 10th grade, it was time for Thanksgiving. And my mother, oh God, we had to iron the tablecloths. We had 3 days it took for this Thanksgiving. Prepare the dinners, everything. It was it was a lot of work. And so anyway, the college professor and his wife came. My godfather, Ricardo, came, and other people. And of course, my mother's Italian dinner was one that hardly anybody could rival, but it was a lot of work. So anyway, we're sitting down at the dining room table, and we're all talking and having a good time, and there's a knock at the door. Well, nobody should be coming now because all the guests had arrived. And my mother said, Joanne, answer the door. So I get up and I go answer the door, and here's this boy, not much older than me, and he was looking for a handout. And he was coming up from the south. So I went and told my mother, and my mother didn't give him a handout. She went to the door. And next thing I hear, Joanne, set a place at the table for this boy. So we all had a good time together, and he was treated very, very well and respected. And when it was time for him to leave, nobody said stay. But my godfather got him boots, my father got him shirts, the college professor gave him something else, and of course my mother gave him enough food for at least a week. And he went on his way. And I just learned I knew what my parents, but love and respect for everybody. So I don't have a picture of my parents here with you to show you, but I know you will know them because they're always carried in my heart.
My mother's name was Lois, and after having been diagnosed and treated for colon cancer 2 times, she was stricken with it again, and she decided she was not going to go through chemo and surgery a 3rd time. So she signed up for hospice, and us children just went and lived with her so we could help her through her final journey. She was actively dying. She had been in a coma for 3 or 4 days without opening her eyes or speaking anything. The hospice nurse came to visit, and my mother was strong-willed, very strong-willed. And the hospice nurse went in to talk to her, and I accompanied her, and the hospice nurse just held her hand, and she said, Lois, it's all right to let go. It's all right to let go. My mother said, and she always loved to travel, she says, go. She opened her eyes and said, go. She said, where are we going? She closed her eyes. that was the last word she ever spoke. So I think that is the ultimate question. Where are we going?
The song I sang a little while ago, which is a poem from Rumi, I had the opportunity to sing to my dad this past year as he was leaving the body. This is my dad, Win Shea, and I learned so much from him just observing his life and also observing his death. As he was leaving the body, he shared with me very openly his process, and it was an amazing experience to just be by his side as he went through this transformation. But I want to share, this is a photo that I took of him by the banks of the Umpqua River about 11 years ago when he and my mom came to visit. They were planning to stay about 3 or 4 days, and we went on some hikes, saw the falls, and my mom started feeling very uncomfortable during this time, and it got progressively worse, and we took her to Mercy Hospital and found out that her gallbladder was enormous, and she needed to have it removed immediately, and that changed my parents' plans. My dad, who was kind of like, up to that point ready to let's wrap this up and go home, he kind of, it was hard for him to realize, okay, we got to, deal with this complication and, be supportive for his wife. But as he surrendered to what is, he relaxed and took advantage of. My mom came through the surgery very, very fine, and I had the chance to be with her and support her in her recovery. And I saw my dad just decide that, well, when life gives you lemons, make lemonade. And he decided to take advantage of the time. I was staying at a retreat center nearby here, and he decided to take a retreat. And he was a philosopher and a poet all his life, and he loved to paint and to draw. And he made some gorgeous watercolors of the Umpqua Valley during that time. And he took a meditation retreat, and I saw him just appreciate what life was giving him, and that was a beautiful gift for me.
Hello. This is Simon. My dad took this beautiful picture of him. My daughter-in-law, she freehand drew that of Simon after he died. He's my oldest son. He lived 30 years. Here he is with his dad, who is also dead, my first husband. I learned a lot from both of these people, and they both died without warning. And I should have known that Simon was gone, because when Sid, my first husband, died, I was in a math class. And I, of course, didn't know that he had passed. He was 54 years old. And very talented, promising person who had a terrible addiction to alcohol that just ate him alive. But he was hilarious. He made me laugh probably more than any other human being. So talk about yin and yang. And the day that he died, I did not know that he was dead, and I was sitting in this very, very serious statistics class and was just flooded with memories of the funny, funny things that he had said and done. Oh, he was a prankster, and he was always hilarious. One time we took a class on vegetarianism, and they gave us a quiz of life expectancy, and I filled mine out very honestly, and he filled his out as if he were Satan himself. He filled his out to say that all he ate was meat, and it was a class on vegetarianism. And the teacher got to his answers and went, oh, he would call me even after we had divorced and leave funny, funny messages on my message machine that I still have recordings of some of those to this day. Simon, when he died, I was getting ready for parent-teacher conference. I had just spoken with him. Nothing on my radar prepared me for his death. He was 30 years old and just shy of a month. And the same thing happened. I was sitting, getting ready for parent-teacher conferences, uploading data on a computer, and out of the blue, I mean, I could probably tell you to the minute when he died, because out of the blue, while I was thinking about my 50-something students that I was a reading interventionist for, and thinking about all of their struggles and growth, I was just flooded with memories, all of them so funny, so joyful. And it left me with the impression that, you know, they say your life flashes in front of your eyes, that it's a reel of joy that goes through one's mind, because both of these men had a lot of pain in their lives. And Sid, especially my first husband, had a lot of grief, a lot of regrets. He was an alcoholic, and so he felt just crushed by his regrets. But in the end, it was just all joy and hilarity and playfulness that I remembered about him. So, thank you. Thank you for this beautiful service.
This is my adoptive father, Lawrence Albin Peterson. He was my saving grace. I had a difficult mother. He was the one who taught me about unconditional love. He taught me a great many things, actually. Sometimes when he wanted me to do his little jobs he had set up for me, because he used to build houses in his spare time, I was the resident painter. He would wake me up with a cup of coffee under my nose, just like that. And, you know, if he was wrong about something, he would actually admit it and say, I was mistaken, and I'm sorry. So he taught me that too, you know, to own up to your mistakes and try to do right by them. He had several nicknames for me. Also, he had a name that he used for himself when he didn't really want to give his real name, like to a salesman or something. He would say he was John Paprikapoli. And he came up with stuff like that all the time. He was a very Swedish man. He called me dearest darling angel sweetie pie. And he died Christmas Day of 1982, very suddenly. And I still miss him, but I hear him when I need to, so he's with me.
Thank you, Glynis. So, is there anyone who, Glynis can even bring the mic to you if there's anyone that has a burning desire to say a word or two about their loved one? If you could just raise your hand if you need to.
I know you've already listened to me, but I have a memory of Simon that I wanted to share with you. When he was 7 years old, my parents and my younger son Tyler and I went to the beach in Oregon. And we had gone to a family reunion, and then my parents took us on this lovely trip to the beach, and Simon was very strong-willed. And he decided that it was Simon against the surf, Simon against the ocean. And the tide was coming in, the sun was getting ready to set, and he was going to, I don't know if you guys remember this, he was going to build a sandcastle that could withstand the rising tide. And he was not going to stop until he got this done. And I, his mother, was a little frustrated with this and getting hungry and cold, and Tyler was younger and wanted to go, and I told Simon, no, that's silly, you cannot beat the ocean. and we packed up and walked to the car, and he would not come. He just ran back to that sandcastle that he'd been working on. And much to my surprise, my lovely parents decided that they would help him. And so they got to digging and piling that sand and packing it down very, very, very tightly. And they made a huge fortress at the edge of the rising tide. And the waves were lapping at it, and it was surviving. And we walked to the car and looked down at the sunset, red on the water, and there it was still sticking up over the waves. And Simon was happy, and we could leave and go have dinner. Well, the next day he had to see what had happened to their sandcastle. And I knew it was going to be bad. But we went back there, and there it was, still standing. And I learned so much from that, and it was just beautiful that my parents decided that they would help this little boy make the sandcastle that could stand up against the waves.
Thank you, Kathy. So thank you for sharing all these wonderful memories. You made these loved ones come alive. And those of you who haven't spoken, your memories are in your heart, and that you're remembering and honoring them with their pictures there. And what a great tribute to those. To remember, the best thing we can do is remember them. And the slide that says, our dead are never dead to us until we've forgotten them. And so this is a wonderful time to remember them and invite them back into our hearts and tell the stories. If you didn't tell a story here today, you can have coffee afterwards and tell it, or tell it to your friends, and just bring them alive this day, because the veil is very thin, and they are with us. They are with us. So the spirit of life never dies. It is the infinite gateway to mysteries and mysteries. Mysteries within mysteries. It is the seed of yin, the spark of yang, always elusive, endlessly available. Thank you.
Now, these words were spoken at the beginning of the sermon, but I will repeat them because they do bear repeating. The spirit of life never dies. It is the infinite gateway to mysteries within mysteries. It is the seed of yin, the spark of yang, always elusive, endlessly available. The boundaries which divide life from death are at best shadowy and vague. And I have skipped something, and I am so sorry. I'm just so excited. This was such a wonderful time today with you all. Please sit back and enjoy the song, Joined Together.
We are brothers, we are sisters, joined together in love. We are brothers, we are sisters, joined together in love. We are brothers, we are sisters, joined together in love. We are brothers, we are sisters, joined together in love. Love, 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 joined together, together in love. Love, 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 joined together, together in love. Sing love now, we are brothers, we are sisters, joined together in love. We are brothers, we are sisters, joined together in love. Little louder now, we are brothers, we are sisters, joined together in love. We are brothers, we are sisters, joined together in love. Love, 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 joined together, together in love. Love, 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 joined together, together in love. Sing joy now, we are brothers, we are sisters, joined together in joy. We are brothers, we are sisters, joined together in joy. We are brothers, we are sisters, joined together in joy. We are brothers, we are sisters, joined together in joy. Joy, 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 joined together, together in joy. Joy, 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 joined together, together in joy. Sing peace now, we are brothers, we are sisters, joined together in peace. We are brothers, we are sisters, joined together in peace. Little louder now, we are brothers, we are sisters, joined together in peace. We are brothers, we are sisters, joined together in peace. Peace, 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 joined together, together in peace. Peace, 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 joined together, together in peace. Last time, love, we are brothers, we are sisters, joined together in love. We are brothers, we are sisters, joined together in love. We are brothers, we are sisters, joined together in love. And last time, we are brothers, we are sisters, joined together in love. Love, 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 joined together, together in love. Love, 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 joined together, together in love.
And if you noticed, Andy was with us. Yeah. A little bit, didn't he? The boundaries which divide life from death are at best shadowy and vague. Who shall say where the one ends and where the other begins? Now rise up as you can. Join me in singing Go Lift It Up. Blessed be. Join us for coffee and tamale pie.